Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. No, haven't started yet. Yes, we have. I didn't know that. Good thing I wasn't picking my nose or anything. Hello, everyone. Happy, there we go. Yeah, so anyway, happy Monday to you. I have been really working hard on this presentation that I want to bring you today. And it might run a little long, but if it gets too long, I'll just cut it off and make a part two because there's a lot to unpack with this. And I am hoping that my goal for this is to just inspire you to ask some questions about your health, your management of care, and really just kind of maybe even start asking some hard questions. So I do have, let me see if I can edit that. Hold on real quick here. I am going to try something because Facebook has been really messing with things. Let's see. Nope, I can't. I can't. Oh, yes, I can. There we go. All right, so I have that changed. All right, good morning. Anyway, so hi, my name is Tina Huerman, and I am a health and wellness advocate in the online space. I'm extremely passionate about people that I care about and love, which is one of the reasons that I'm bringing you this topic today. We've been kind of building on some information I came across really a while ago, but it really didn't like sink in. Sometimes you have to hear a message several times in order for it to be validated within the mind. So good morning, Lillian. Thank you for that message. I am running a little bit behind today, so thank you. So let's dig right in because this is going to be a lot for you to unpack, and hopefully it stirs you a little bit to start asking some questions about the management of your care, possibly your care team, and just a different way to take a look at the money-making machine called healthcare. So I did post a graphic the other day about the billions of dollars that is just from the cancer industry alone, and that rivals Amazon's finances. So if that is not one little clue about what today is going to be about, maybe this isn't for you. If that is triggering for you, and maybe questioning your medical team is always a sensitive subject. So I always want to come to you with respect and just sharing information that I found, not to make you feel bad. I just want you to question. Okay, so let's get into this. Parasites are not just out there, floating around third world countries and things like that. They're right here. And you might be living with them without even knowing it. So let's just call it what it is. It is one of the biggest health cover-ups of our time. And parasites are not just some, like I said, third world country problem. That myth, it's been published so hard and so often that most people in America think they're exempt from it. And that lie is exactly why so many people are suffering. But here's the truth. They don't want to talk about parasites. They don't want to talk about parasites are everywhere. And they don't care if you eat, parasites don't care if you eat organic, drink spring water, or have a Pinterest perfect house that's clean all the time. You can be the cleanest, greenest, most well-minded person on the planet and still be dealing with some sort of parasite invasion within your body. And you wouldn't even know it, you guys. There are some telltale signs, which we will get into, but for the most part, you really will just chalk that up to another illness or something. You won't put it in the fact that, okay, maybe this is parasites. You know why? Because your doctor's not going to ask that question either. And you know what's wild? We routinely deworm our pets, our livestock, even zoo animals. But when it comes to humans, it's crickets. It's total silence. And let's be clear. It's not because the science doesn't back it. It's because keeping you sick keeps them rich. And if that made you uncomfortable, good. It should. And parasites don't just cause stomach issues. They show up as brain fog, fatigue, weight gain, skin issues, eczema, acne, anxiety, autoimmune systems, and even chronic inflammation that no protocol seems to fix. They mimic other illnesses so well that people are out there getting labeled with conditions that never get better. And that's because the root cause was never addressed. Today's medical system treats these symptoms. It does not treat the root cause of it. And when you do that, you're just putting a Band-Aid over something that might need stitches. Does that make sense? So researchers have found that parasites like toxoplasma can lie dormant in the brain and are linked to everything from mood disorders, cognitive decline, and some studies even show that people with parasitic infections are 4 times more likely to suffer from mental illness. And yet, how often are we tested? Liver flukes are officially classified as a carcinogen, and they've been proven to cause bile duct cancer, and yet no one talks about it. This is bigger than symptoms. This is about control. And the more you start questioning what you've been told, the more you realize how many dots start connecting. And that's one of the things we're going to do today. So buckle up, because once you see this, you guys, you can't unsee it. And once you start detoxing, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. So let's talk about the moment that natural healing got bulldozed by greed and the man who made it happen. Sir, Mr. John D. Rockefeller. Now, don't get it twisted. This wasn't some generous philanthropic out here, guy out here trying to better humanity. This was a calculated business move. You see, Rockefeller saw a golden opportunity, not in healing people, but in owning medicine. Plant-based remedies, natural healing protocols, they worked, but they couldn't be patented. You can't patent a plant. And yet you can build an empire on things. You can't build an empire on things that you can't control. But synthetic petroleum-based drugs, now that could be turned into a billion-dollar industry. So what did he do? He flipped the entire medical system on its head. He started pouring money into medical schools, but only the ones that taught drug-based treatment. He made sure the curriculum's focused on prescriptions and not prevention. And here's the kicker. He also bought off the media. William Randolph Hearst was a friend of his. I've been studying this since I studied CBD. There was a time when CBD was one of the most prescribed medical support products that a doctor would give to their clients because it helps within the body. Now, I barely promote CBD anymore because I've found some other products that really do a much better job. But they created that, and they did that with the media's help. And so suddenly, the ancient wisdom and root cause healing was labeled as woo-woo, and herbalists and homeopaths were dismissed. And the only thing that got airtime was stuff that could be sold, patented, pushed, and on repeat. And remember what I said earlier, the more you hear something, the more that seed, that's fertilizer, and the more that seed is going to start to grow. So with Hearst and the New York Times and corrupt politicians and Rockefeller with millions of dollars to feed these people to push his narrative, it really wasn't that hard to control the public narrative and what the public saw and interpreted as the gospel for their health. And just like that, with all of this, healing was no longer about wellness, it was about wealth. And this is why you haven't heard about parasite cleaning. And this is why detoxing, minerals in your body, and herbs aren't talked about in your doctor's office. This is why you're given a prescription in 5 minutes, but never a conversation about why your body's out of balance in the first place. It's not the answers don't exist. It's just that they can't profit from them. So let's bring truth back to the table. Let's reclaim what was buried and let's start asking the kinds of questions that can't be silenced. So let's pull back the curtains a little bit more on something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and that's the Flexner Report. This was more than just a document, it was a takedown. It was published in 1910, funded by the Carnegie Foundation. Yep, you guessed it, backed by Rockefeller himself. And this wasn't about improving medicine. It was about reshaping it, controlling it, and creating an industry in the healthcare system where these people could profit. And the fallout has been brutal. More than half the medical schools in the US were shut down. The ones hit the hardest were schools rooted in naturopathy, homeopathy, herbalism, and energy medicine. And let's not ignore this part. Many of those schools were led by women or served Black communities. This wasn't just a health shift, it was a cultural eraser, much like what happened with the CBD when they did the smear campaign against that. It wasn't about your health. They labeled it as the Mexicans were coming into the United States and they were smoking this marijuana and raping and murdering. And they also said that the Black jazz musicians in the jazz clubs were satanic worshipers. And this was what was put in the papers, in the newspaper, and pushed to the public to create this outcry so that he could get more people, they could get more people on this bandwagon to do the non-holistic approach, petroleum-based pharmaceuticals, where one prescription builds on another, that builds on another, and builds on another. There's actually a taught campaign when there is a medical conference, there will be pharmaceutical reps there, and they are they have a campaign called 5 by 50, and the doctors are rewarded. And the doctors are rewarded if they can have people that are 50, 5 medicines by the age of 50, 5 medicines by the age of 50. They're rewarded for that. And so what does a doctor do? They look for reasons to prescribe that prescription to pad their own financial gain and bank accounts. Now, I'm not saying every doctor is like this. I'm not saying that some of them don't have a heart-based servanthood towards their patients, but we're going to get into why they can't even talk about that here in a little bit. So the Flexner Report shut down more than half the medical schools. And one of the most telling lines from this report said, the practitioner of medicine in the future must be equipped to apply scientific methods to all of his problems. Translation, if it couldn't be measured in a lab, patented, and pushed through the pharmaceutical machine, it was dismissed, gone. It was erased. There was no space for intuition, no space for energy work, no space for nature, no space for ancestral knowledge that worked for centuries. All of it was swept aside in the name of science, but what it really was about control. This is the beginning and the end for the holistic healing in mainstream, and not because it didn't work, but because it couldn't be monetized at the level that they wanted. And guess what? We're still living in this fallout. This is why you've never been told to detox. Why are your symptoms met with scripts instead of solutions? Why are you told to trust the system, even when your gut knows better? How many times have you been given a prescription you thought, oh man, this can't be right. Well, he's a doctor, I'm not, I should follow through. We are not meant to numb and manage. We are meant to heal. And to do that, we have to stop pretending that this system was ever built with our well-being truly in mind. I know this is a lot of information, but stick with me because it's all connected. And I used to feel so overwhelmed that my doctor and felt that my doctor was the end all be all. But after my mom's cancer diagnosis, and my passion for saving her, because I didn't want to lose my best friend, finding complementary and alternative support for her journey was so overwhelming. It became my focal point. I researched enough, but it was scary too. You know, you're living in that moment of fear. And, you know, am I going to lose my mom? I can't imagine a Mother's Day without her. This is so scary. It's so overwhelming. And all of this information coming in combined with that fear, it was really hard to put together anything. And I was fairly new when it came to holistic healing and natural alternatives to what we now know as the correct medical system. But so that became my passion in saving her. But I felt that there was just so much more than running sick through people through a protocol without addressing any real issues. So, but let's be real for a moment. My mom was no saint. My mom smoked cigars. She drank every day socially. She lived in one of those retirement communities where everybody would get together for an afternoon cocktail, and she craved sugar like no other. But here's the weird thing: the sugar became a part of her life after her diagnosis, which leads me to believe that there was possibly some sort of parasites in her that were mimicking the breast cancer. And I've got slides and posts and stuff coming for you on that. But this is when I stumbled across this thought process of parasites and cancers, I knew that there had to be a link between the two. And so I started researching. And I've just been totally consumed with this research for the past couple of weeks, and my mind is absolutely blown. Well, see, when my mom had the breast cancer, they went in to do the biopsy on that, and they had to cut that 3 times in order to get a clear margin. And what do parasites do when they feel like they're under attack? So let's hypothetically, I have no way to prove this, but let's hypothetically say that tumor that was in her breast was actually a cyst that contained parasites, because they'll do that. They'll create a cyst around themselves to protect themselves. And so when they cut in it, they didn't get clear margins. What happens when a parasite feels it's under attack? It's going to hide deeper within the body. It's going to throw its eggs to protect its colony, and it's going to release ammonia and toxins into the body. So then they go back in and they cut it to 3 times to get that clear margin. Now, maybe she should have had a complete, what do you call it when they chop them off? Anyway, chop them off. So what happened to holistic health wasn't some casual shift in medical philosophy. It was a full-blown takedown. It was strategic. It was ruthless. And it was absolutely intentional. Holistic practitioners who had dedicated their lives to real, honest root cause healing were suddenly painted as frauds. Quack became the go-to insult. They're selling snake oil. How many of you heard that? Herbalists lost their license, homeopaths were shut down, and people were literally arrested for doing what their ancestors had done for centuries, using plants, energy, intuition, and food as medicine. And all the while that this is happening, the media is pushing this one shiny message: pills are modern, pills are smart, pills are science. Anything else is a dangerous joke. But here's the thing: the joke's not on them, the joke's on us. Because here we are, decades later, and what do we have to show for it? Record high rates of chronic insulin, 1 in 3 getting cancer, more autoimmune diseases than we can count, anxiety, depression, hormonal chaos, inflammation, brain fog, gut dysfunction, and a system that tells you it's all normal. We've been disconnected from our bodies, our instincts, our birthright to heal, taught to doubt ourselves and trust a system that profits when we stay sick. This is not about your health and safety. This is about their control and their pocketbooks. But guess what? Me and my tribe, we are not buying it anymore. The truth is coming back. I'm speaking loud and proud on the healing benefits of plants, but I have to even be careful, because if I say anything that is against the narrative, I can get in trouble. My doctor, if it were to prescribe, like say you go to your doctor and you say, you know what, I've been doing a lot of research on the benefits of soursop. You go to your oncologist. I've been doing a lot of research on the benefits of soursop. I've seen some some studies. I've really been diving deep into this, and I feel like I want to add soursop to my care plan. How do you feel about that? Your doctor is going to negate that thought process for you because he's not allowed to suggest anything that has not gone through the pharmaceutical pipeline. He's only allowed to talk about the pharmaceutical pipeline. So when you bring something natural to your doctor, if they are not a holistic minded doctor, then they really, even a holistic minded MD or doctor, DO, cannot really speak to the fact that any herb, plant, or natural solution is going to be any benefit to your health because it hasn't been studied. Well, you know what it takes to study? It takes profit from the outcome of that study. If you can study a plant and take it, and that costs a lot of money to put that all the way through the testing process, but there has to be an income on the outside of that in order for somebody to give funding to do that study. So that's why you don't see a lot of actual studies on plant medicine, because there's no profit on something you can grow in your backyard. So now let's talk about the modern, the medical shift, and what that actually gave us. So we've got a system here with the very people we trust with our health, our doctors. They're graduating with less than 20 hours of nutritional education. Let that sink in for a moment. Food, the thing that literally builds our cells, fuels our energy, and influences every single system within our body, gets less time in medical school than some electives. It's not just a gap, it's a massive failure. In fact, in 2021, a study showed that the average med student only gets 11 hours of nutritional training. 11. How is that even possible? And here's the kicker. Back in 1985, the National Academy of Sciences recommended at least 25 hours, but that was not voted in. That was nearly 40 years ago. And even by 2010, less than 30% of the schools had hit that mark. Meanwhile, poor diet is fueling obesity, diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. And our doctors are barely trained to even talk about it. That's not science, that's sabotage. We have a system where detox isn't discussed, parasites are completely ignored, and prevention, you guys, it's not even on the radar. They're not teaching how to heal the body. They're teaching how to manage symptoms with a pill for every problem, and then another pill for the side effects from the first one. This is not healthcare. This is maintenance. This is dependency, and this is control. And if you're waiting for your regular doctor to bring up mineral deficiencies, heavy metal toxicity, trauma, or parasite load, it's not going to happen. Not because they don't care, but because they're not taught. They know only what they've been taught, only what they're legally allowed to speak to you about. That knowledge of healthy plant-based healing was stripped from the curriculum on purpose. So here's the deal. If you want real health, you have to go upstream. A river flows one way, but you got to swim against that current, my friend. You've got to start asking the hard questions. You've got to stop outsourcing your intuition to a system that profits when you stay confused, inflamed, and exhausted. Because this system was not designed to heal you. This system is built on repeat customers. But healing is so possible. And you just won't find it in a prescription pad. You will find it when you start looking in places you're not told. So let's talk about how this exact same pattern of suppression played out in real time, because it didn't stop in the early 1900s. We watched this happen again during COVID. Take ivermectin. It's not something I support. It's not a natural thing, but it has had some great benefits. Parasites love chemicals. Ivermectin's got some chemicals, like you're just feeding that whole thing. Black seed oil is nature's ivermectin, but that's beside the point, not what I'm talking about here right now. So ivermectin is a drug that's safely been used for decades across the globe, and suddenly it was smeared as a smear language as a horse dewormer, and anyone who even said the word was shut down, ridiculed, or banned. Doctors lost their license if they talked about ivermectin, and people were deplatformed. And why? Because it threatened the narrative, because it didn't come with that $1 billion patent, because it wasn't the vaccine. So let's be real, that is not science. That's control. And the media ran with it and fed it to the public on a daily basis and made fun of and called names for people that did not fully support the vaccine. Social media censored it, and once again, the public was spoon-fed a story that made anything outside the pharmaceutical machine look dangerous and laughable. Now, let me be clear. Again, I'm not a fan of ivermectin or fenbenzynol. They're not natural, and they're not my go-to. But the point is, whether I use them or not, the point is that the moment something doesn't serve the industry's bottom line, it gets silenced, smeared, mocked. It's not the truth. It's not about truth. It's about power. And that's why I turn to nature. Fulvic acid, black seed oil, soursop, tulsi, real tools that support the body's healing instead of hijacking it. These remedies don't need a marketing campaign because they've been working for centuries. This isn't conspiracy, you guys. This is pattern. It's history that repeated itself with a new label. The same pattern played out a century ago after the Flexner Report. The American Medical Association literally had a department of investigation that worked with media outlets to label natural remedies as quackery. Does that sound familiar? We just relived it 5 years ago. And if we don't start waking up and reclaiming our rights to question, to research, and to choose our own path, they'll keep doing it. Healing is your birthright, right? It is not a business model. So let's talk money, because once you follow the dollars, the truth gets real clear. Cancer alone pulls in over $350 billion a year in the US, and that's not a typo. That's a business, one of the biggest. It's neck and neck with Amazon, ahead of Apple. Pharmaceutical companies are making upwards of $30 billion annually just from the chemo drugs. They aren't cheap treatments, and some of those drugs cost thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars a month. And guess what? Those price tags keep going up year after year, diagnosis after diagnosis. Now ask yourself, is there any financial incentive to actually prevent cancer? To detox the body, to strengthen the immune system, to educate the public on herbs, minerals, nutrition, cleansing protocols, heck, getting in a walk every day? No, because there's no money in that. There's no patent on parsley. There's no $1 billion revenue stream from fulvic acid, black seed, or liver support. In 2021 alone, cancer drugs brought in $176 billion globally. And most patients don't even realize that nearly 40% of the US cancer patients will drain their life savings within 2 years of treatment. Prevention doesn't fill pockets, you guys, it empties them. And if healing you meant collapsing a multi-billion-dollar industry, do you think they'd actually promote it? They'd call it dangerous, unproven, alternative. But the truth is, what they're afraid of isn't your safety, it's your sovereignty. Because when you reclaim your health, you take back your power and you stop being a customer for life. And that's the real threat. So don't wait for the system to hand you answers it was never meant to give. Start by asking different questions. Start by looking upstream and start remembering that your body was never broken. It's just been buried under layers of misinformation and marketing. Healing isn't complicated. It's just not profitable. So I have quite a bit more to share, but this, I want to keep your attention. I don't want you to like get busy and walk off. I want this to be information you can come back and watch again. Sometimes I see a video that will be like an hour long and it's like, oh, I don't have time for that. So I want to keep this short and sweet. If you feel the need to share this with others, please do. And before I close, I just want to say, what if cancer isn't just random? What if for some people, it's not just about genetics or bad luck, but a toxic load, inflammation, and even parasites? And the truth is, certain parasites are directly linked to cancer. Liver flukes are definitely tied to liver and bile cancers. That's colon, breast, lung, other areas, brain, damaging tissues, disrupting the DNA, more chemicals, more treatments. So I've created a free list of 25 powerful questions to ask your doctor before filling another prescription. And these aren't just helpful, they're pretty much game changers. So message me health and I'll get that sent right over to you. I've also got a liver and parasite cleanse starting on April 5th with a private wellness community that I can add you to. So if somebody shares this with you, it's because they care about you and they just want you to open your eyes, not to change your thinking immediately, but just for you to start asking questions. Because you are more than a bank account. You're a very special person that a lot of people love. And we want you to be healthy. My name is Tina Hewerman. I'm a health advocate, and I'm here to help educate you on your journey. Have a good day. Bye-bye.